Hi, my name is Daniel Posney, and this is Shifting Perspectives. We're going to go for about 10 minutes, and the topic today is overwhelm. And this is a topic that I'm really excited about. I'm excited about all of them, obviously, but this one because I can get overwhelmed. And, when I was a kid, and still to this day, I'm what they would call a sensitive empath. So what that means is I can feel other people's emotions, which really helps me with my counseling work. I can kind of feel into what the energy of what's going on. And then through my own direct experience, I can really tap in pretty quickly to what the solution is and what the pattern is. But what that also means is that my emotions are up on the surface really easily. I'll be in a conversation with someone that can feel the emotion that they're holding back on, and then it'll come out of me. And so that can be overwhelming to know that you're so sensitive to different emotions, good and bad emotions. I could watch kids on stage in their little tutus, and I'm crying of how beautiful it is, and then I'm with someone who's had a death in the family or something, and I can feel that emotion. So I love it. I think it's one of my superpowers, but it's not really accepted by society, and society kind of says you should stuff all that down and just keep on going and keep on achieving and keep on working and keep on going for that golden ring. But for someone who's a sensitive or somebody that gets easily overwhelmed, there needs to be more set up to be done to be able to function in a world that believes that way. So the thing that I can get into is I'm relaxing, and then my wife will ask me to do something, and right when she asks me, I'm thinking about the 5 things that I need to do. And so that one little thing that she just asked me, this little thing, I start feeling overwhelmed. And she's not trying to overwhelm me, and she's not overwhelming me. So, but I'm feeling this overwhelm, and I'm thinking she doesn't know how many things that I have to do. But that's just my friend Mark just has this in his program that says um, overwhelm is an indulgent emotion. And at first, when I heard that, I kind of got a little triggered. What do you mean it's an indulgent? It's a real emotion. I do feel overwhelmed. But really, when I started to look at it more, it is what they would call an indulgent. I think that's the right word that they use. It's one that it's kind of it's a lot of, oh man, the world is so crazy, and we really indulge in this emotion. We really go into it and really kind of pull it apart and use as much of it as we can. So we can use that to stay in victim consciousness. And so the overwhelm and the victim consciousness kind of goes hand in hand. So if you ever feel yourself that you're feeling overwhelmed, see how much little victim consciousness is in there. Poor me, look what's being done to me. I can't believe this is happening. This is so overwhelming. And it just gets into a big, you can imagine, I'm really exaggerating, but you can imagine a real dramatic actor, actress, and they're really playing it up. And that's what I can do sometimes is, my feelings, my emotions, my thoughts, and they could just start kind of they go out there on the overwhelm. So I want to share with you some insights that I was just meditating on overwhelm. So first of all, the thing that I need to do when I start feeling this overwhelm is just be here right now and just breathe. And I know this, breathing has been over and over done about this is the solution, but really is. When I start feeling overwhelmed, I start breathing really shallow. So the first thing that I can do practically is just take a deep breath. I know you've heard this so many times in your childhood, count to 10 and all that stuff, but really we forget that. And I think that we forget that because we want to indulge in the emotion of overwhelm. We want to just sit in that overwhelm, just like when we want to be pissed off, we just kind of sit in that for a while. So just breathe, be here right now. And what I like to do is ask myself, what can I do about the situation? And then I breathe. There's this saying that goes something like, have the wisdom to be able to change the things that you can and the patience for things you can't, or something like that. So if there's something you can do about it, great, then do that little thing, take some action on it. If there's something that you can't do something about, but you can do it differently, then just take note of that. Okay, this didn't really go as planned, or I got a little overwhelmed or something. And what I tend to do is that, like I was just working on the truck yesterday, and it took all day to work on the truck. And then my wife Valerie came out and she said, when do you want to think about dinner? And I was like, oh, it just hit me, that overwhelm. I'm trying to put this truck back together so I can get it running so I can go do my work tomorrow. And it all just kind of hit me. So she was just asking me a simple question. But what I needed to do in that moment is say, hold on a second, you're going to get the truck together. Is anything that you could change about this? Well, right now, all I can do is put the truck back together, put the wires back together, put the floor mat back together, and stop going further on the project. So I still have things to do on that truck to get it what I'm working on going. But I started to go further on the project, which was something I would do in the past. Instead of stopping where I was and boxing everything up and packing everything up and getting it going, in the past, I would just keep on with the project and just keep on going. And I'd run myself down so low. And then I would have this overwhelm. So this time I decided that I'm just going to box it up, put it back together so it's drivable, and then I'll finish the truck today or tomorrow. So that's one thing you can do, is there something that you can do about the situation now? Something has to be done right now. Okay, got to do that thing. There's no way out of it. But you can stop pushing it. You can stop adding more things to it, to kind of cut your losses, sort of. And then the next thing you can do is you say, what is true? So when you get overwhelmed and you start getting anxious and getting stressed out, your mind wants to kind of say, yeah, follow me. We're going to go over here and we're going to take this down this dark road, and it's going to run you down this road. But what you can ask yourself is before, so imagine that your mind is this other being, and you can say, hold on a second. I'm not going to go with you right now. For right now, I just need to get some clarity. And your mind is going, what do you mean get some clarity? Just come with me. So you can just say, hold on a second, what's true right now? So as you start to feel anxious, you start to worry, you start to get overwhelmed, just ask yourself, okay, what's really going on right now? What am I getting overwhelmed about? Well, if I don't do this and this is going to happen, if I don't do that and that's going to happen. Okay, what's happening right now? Just be here right now with it. Ask yourself, what is the only thing that's true right now? The only thing that's true right now is there's this thing that I have to deal with. But it doesn't mean anything beyond that way. Let's say I had an illness or had an accident or something. That doesn't mean all those things that, we want it to mean, what our mind is saying. The thing is that I've broken my leg. Okay. What I know right now is a hell of a lot of pain. Okay. I'll deal with that pain right now. And it takes me to that moment right now. But anywhere after that, I don't need to go there right now. So you ask yourself, what is the situation leading your thoughts to? If it's leading you down this path of that you're going to lose something, or this is going to happen to you, this is a real good opportunity to look at that and say, okay, where does this idea come from? Because you have a choice. Something happens to you, or something is being overwhelming to you, and you have a choice of just being in that, or letting your mind take you down this road of all these things are going to happen to you. And this comes from someplace. This idea, it's some movie that you watched, or some situation that you experienced, or some environment that you were in when you were a kid, and that caused you to go down this path of, your mind said, okay, I'm looking back on my records and I can see that if this, if then kind of thing. So there's this programming language that says, if then, if this happened, then this will happen. So that's where we need to just hold off on that and see where that came from. And there's an opportunity to heal when that first came in your life. So you ask yourself, how is this feeling similar to how you felt in your childhood? It may be that you're subconsciously attracting chaotic situations or environment, oddly, to feel comfortable. I know this sounds really weird, but you may know some people that have a chaotic life, and it's kind of like other people will have a normal situation in the same environment as them, but they create this chaotic environment. And I've talked to many people that admit and say, yeah, I have a chaotic, stress-filled life. And that's what my childhood was. And I feel a little bit more comfortable being in that chaos. Like everybody was yelling at each other and, punching walls and stuff like that. And that person feels like that's just kind of normal. And the reason why some people say that it's normal to them or it feels comfortable is because when you're in a chaotic environment and you feel overwhelmed and anxious, usually your things are on, all your senses are on, and you're more alert and more aware. And your mind says, this is a safer place to be. So it's actually, for some people, it's a more comfortable, safe place to be chaotic and be, kind of anxious and alert about everything. And I tried to do some of that when I was a kid. I tried to be more alert and anxious about everything, but that didn't really work. So just know that if you're one of those people that kind of feels comfortable in that, your mind has been running the show. And part of what I do is I help people to have their mind stop running the show. And your mind wants to say, yeah, but we're one and the same, and this is what we are, and all that kind of thing. But it's not really true. So first thing you can do is you can calm your heart, take some breaths. And what I like to do is I like to focus on my heartbeat and on my pulse and start to lower that heartbeat down. Like when I used to give blood, I used to like kind of play around with this and see how low I would get it. Because then I'd like to get like the people taking my blood a little bit freaked out. And they would have to come to me and say, you're getting audited by the IRS. And so I would just kind of play with that. But you can lower your heartbeat just by certain type of breathing and little meditation and going into it that way. So, but what's more powerful and more a better guidance is to use your body's feeling and your inner knowing to guide you instead of your chaotic mind. It seems like it's a normal place to allow your mind to run everything because it's so alert. But your body and your body consciousness is even more alert than your own mind. In fact, it's your body that is feeding your mind. So what you're getting from the mind, all this alertness and anxiousness and overwhelm, is all that static that comes from the mind instead of the raw data that comes from your body. So if you're a sensitive like me, you need to really, there's some things that you really need to do so that you're not overwhelmed with all this data and input from the world. You need to set boundaries and you need to find out what your own needs are, and you need to cultivate your own environment. So what I needed to do is I needed to kind of preset my environment and organize what I was going to be involved in and for how long. And I needed to start setting boundaries instead of just going into something and then having someone ask something of me and then me getting upset because I feel overwhelmed. So I need to kind of really kind of set the stage. I'm going to do it for this long and I'm going to stop at this time, and I'm not going to push this until I'm just completely wonked out. So, you have to also know, if you're sensitive and you're feeling overwhelmed, that others are not out to harm you or to overwhelm you. You are the one that's feeling overwhelmed. So check for being in any victim consciousness with this. And what are you really feeling overwhelmed with or anxious or upset about? And what I found is that I needed to breathe about this and I needed to meditate on this and ask myself, I'm feeling overwhelmed about this particular thing, but actually I'm overwhelmed about the world. And for a sensitive like me, I get really touched by the pains in the world and the joys in the world. And what's actually happening is I'm feeling everything and I'm getting overwhelmed with the world. I'm thinking it's about this one particular situation, me working on the truck or whatever, but it's really about the world. So here's some things that you can do. You need to start asking for what you want. And just know that most people will say yes. And I think that they don't honor that and they don't say yes for some authentic asking for something good for you, then, start to look at that. But most people will say yes, and most people want to support you and love you and give you exactly what you need. And if you say it in a way that's, loving and tender and authentic, you really can't go wrong. But you're probably so used to not asking for what you want because you're worried about losing love or being too needy or whatever the thing is. And so you just go without and go without, and you just overwhelm yourself. I'm talking about myself. The other thing that you can do is to create space around you in the form of time and organization of tasks. So, for us that get overwhelmed, you got to say, this is what I can do today. This is what I can do tomorrow. Everything doesn't need to get done today, because what I've done is I'll take on a task and I'll go, oh, I got some spare time. I'll take care of this too and take care of that too. And then I'll get overwhelmed. So create the space around you and give you a little, even if you have to put it in your calendar, give yourself blocks of time so that you can have some rest space in there. Put it in the calendar for lunch. Put it in your calendar for just meditation or just do nothing. Whatever you need to do to say, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm doing nothing, and be okay with it. The other thing is that you can stop taking in so much data, so much social media and news and sugar. All those things are inputs that overwhelm your system. So if you ever done fasting or cleansing and that kind of thing, and you're not taking in all that stuff, by the way, if you're fasting and cleansing and you're taking in, news and social media and data from the world, it's going to be really taxing on your system. So as much as you can, pull back your energy and bring it back to yourself and stop being fed with all this stuff. Give yourself hours to work with in the morning to do nothing, or do yoga or qigong or meditation, or make a puzzle or whatever. Just if you're the kind of person that gets overwhelmed, you have to, well, you don't have to, but I find that it's necessary for me to wake up a couple of hours or 2 or 3 hours earlier than what I need to do to, start going with my day, so that I just have time just to do nothing. And it's kind of like, it brings me back to, I'm in charge of my life. And this is what I'd do if I didn't have anything to do today. And it's kind of like, it kind of tricks me into this sense of peace and tranquility. And then I start to go into my day. But if I jump out of bed and I got to go right to work, then I'm back into overwhelm. The other thing is, give yourself a cool down period before you go to bed. So don't go through your day and finish all your tasks in your computer and stuff like that, and then try and go right to bed. Especially if you're bringing your computer to bed or your phone to bed, it's like whatever you're bringing to your bed, whatever you're bringing to your sleep, you're going to have in your dreams, and it's going to bring that energy to that. So what's really cool about this is that I've given you lots of practical advice about this, and if you're not doing some of these, great, it can only get better. But I want to ask you one last question, and it's not so practical, but more metaphysical, I guess, is, why is it that you feel you need to be in overwhelm? So that's a good question to ask, is that if you really take on the idea that through my thoughts and beliefs and actions and my vibration of consciousness, I am feeling overwhelmed, is there something that you feel like inside and subconsciously is needing to be created? Is there some attention that you need, or is there some safety that you're trying to provide, or what's behind that? Because this isn't happening to you. This is an energy that you're somehow creating by your actions, the way that you do things, and the way you kind of set up or don't set up your environment. I know that's kind of it's a hard thing to hear when I go, it's the world that overwhelms me. Well, wouldn't it be great if you realize your own power and your own empowerment, and you are the one who can actually change this? Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you, and bless you. Have a wonderful day, wonderful week.